Cuci mata je. For speaking is accepted, you just say sikat rambut. Rambut is hair. Saya takkan tipu. For formal Malay, saya tidak akan menipu.
Get yours now. Tina Amir's Learn Malay eBooks. Master Malay language in just a week.
Malays make up just over 50% of Malaysia's population, followed by Chinese, 24%, Indians, 7%, and the indigenous of Sabah and Sarawak, 11%, while the remaining of Orang Asli is only 0.7%. Their population is approximately 198,000 in 2017 according to International Workgroup for Indigenous Affairs, IWGIE. They consist of 18 ethnic groups, divided into three main categories, which are Negrito, Senoi, and Proto-Malay. As of 2010, the Negrito ethnic group numbers approximately 4,800. The Negritos mostly live in Perak, 2,413 people, which made up 48.2%, in Kelantan there are 1,381 people, which made up 27.6%, and Pahang there are 925 people, which made up 18.5% of that population. The remaining 5.7% of Negritos/Semang are distributed throughout Malaysia. There are 6 subcategories of Negritos or Semang which are Batik, Mindrik, Jahai, Lano, Kinchu, and Kintak. Negritos or Semang are regarded as the earliest inhabitants of the Malay Peninsula. They show physical affinities to Australo-Melanesians, and mostly descend from the people of the Hobonian cultural period, with many of their burials found dating back 10,000 years ago. Those from Perak, Kedah and Pahang are also known as Sakai, which mean debt slaves, while those from Kelantan and Terengganu were called Pangan, which mean forest people. The Senoi and Proto-Malays arrived much later, probably during the Neolithic period. As their name implies, Negrito in Spanish means little black person. They are people of short stature, about 1.5 meters or less in height, dark-skinned, which means the color varies from dark copper to black. They have curly hair, wide noses, round eyes and low cheekbones. Physically, they resemble the indigenous Andamanese peoples of the Andaman Islands, the Eta people in the Philippines, the Melanesians of Oceania, and the Aboriginal Tasmanians. Negritos or Semang still adhere to animistic beliefs, believing that all natural objects have souls. Their shamans act as intermediaries between the visible world of people and the invisible world of spirits. They practice magic to predict the future, and to cure diseases. Special rites accompany all important events in their lives. Next is Senoi. Senoi is the largest subdivision of the Orang Asli, accounting for about 54% of their population. There are subcategories of Senoi people, which are Timiar, Semai, Jahat, Chewang, Samakberi, and Mameri. They live mainly in the central and northern parts of the Malay Peninsula, where their villages are scattered in the states of Perak, Kelantan, and Pahang, mainly on the slopes of the Titiwangsa Mountains, which run from north to south in the middle of the peninsula. Most of the members of the Senoi Tribe live along the coast of South Selangor, from Sungai Pelak up to Pulau Keri, although there is at least one Senoi community on the other side of the Klang River. Physically, the Senois differs from the Negritos in terms of being taller in height, much lighter skin color, wavy hair, and they also have similar physical characteristics to the Mongoloids. They are believed to be the result of mixing Negritos with migrants from Indochina, which are Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia. The term Senoi comes from the words Senoi and Singoi, which means people, in Semai language and Timiar language, respectively. The traditional economy of the Senoi people was based on jungle resources, where they would engage in hunting, fishing, foraging and logging. In contact with the Malay and Siamese states, the Senoi people were involved in trading, and were the main suppliers of jungle produce in the region. Now most of them work in the agricultural sector, and have their own farms to grow rubber, oil palm or cocoa. Some are hired workers. Among the Senois are workers of various qualifications from unskilled workers to professionals. In the daily life of the Senoi people, the norms of customary laws are observed. Their belief system is based on the belief in the existence of a higher supernatural force, responsible for the creation of the world, and all that inhabits in it. Senoi shamans are able to communicate with supernatural beings, with the help of which they are able to heal their patients from diseases, and to protect them from visible and invisible threats. Since the days of the colonial era, missionaries of world religions have been active among these jungle dwellers, and now there are adherents of Islam, Christianity, and Baha'i faith, but not much response among the Senoi tribes.
Last one, Proto-Malay. Proto-Malays or Aboriginal Malays, is the second largest group of Orang Asli, they're making up about 43%. This group consists of 6 separate tribes, namely, Jakun, Temuan, Semilai, Kuala, Kanak and Seletar people.
The term Proto-Malay, which translates to Malayuasli, Aboriginal Malay, or Malayu Purba, Ancient Malay, or Malayu Tua, Old Malay, refers to Austronesian speakers, possibly from mainland Asia, who moved to the Malay Peninsula and Malay Archipelago in a long series of migrations between 2500 and 1500 BC, and in one model the first of 2 migrations of early Malay speakers before that of the Daro Malays. The Proto-Malays are the ancestors of the Malays in the modern Malaysia and Indonesia. The Proto-Malays are believed to be seafarers, knowledgeable in oceanography and possessing advanced fishing, as well as basic agricultural skills. Over the years, they settled in various places and adopted various customs and religions as a result of acculturation and intermarriage. With most of the people they come in contact with Orang Asli tribes, such as the Negrito or Simung and Senoi peoples. In colonial period, they were all erroneously called Yukon people. Unacceptable national slurs. First, Yukon, an informal and derogatory word used widely in the country, which refer to someone who is fascinated with objects, events, or experiences which seem ordinary to others. This is an unacceptable word to use in that context. Second word is Sakai, an informal and derogatory word used widely in the country. It's to describe a person who is lack of exposure of other places, a local, an aborigine, a wild or uncouth person. This is an unacceptable word to use in that context. The Proto-Malay live mainly in the southern half of the peninsula in the states of Selangor, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang and Johor. Most of the settlements of the Aboriginal Malays are located near cities or form separate quarters within them. Their customs, culture and languages are very similar to the Malaysian Malays. They are similar to the Malays in appearance, have a dark skin color, straight hair and an epic and thick fold. Katriana Aziz, 22-year-old girl, Orang Asli Temuan, a famous TikToker. I come from a village Bilahoy, Seremban. My mother and father are indigenous people, but only my maternal grandpa is Malay. We are Orang Asli, but everywhere I go people think I am Malay or Chinese girl from Sabah or Sarawak. Some people think I am a Philippine girl, but when I told them I am an Orang Asli, they do not believe and even want to see my identification card. Today, Aboriginal Malays are firmly settled people, mostly permanently employed in agriculture. Those who live on the river banks or on the coast are engaged in fishing. Many of them are also employed, and there are those who are engaged in entrepreneurial activities or work as professionals. The difference is in the origin of these subgroups. In Indonesia and Malaysia, the theory of the existence of 2 branches of the Austronesian peoples are identified as Proto-Malays and Daro-Malays. According to this theory, the Proto-Malays inhabited the islands of the Sunda archipelago about 2,500 years ago. The migration of Proto-Malays is attributed to later times, more than 1,500 years ago. The Proto-Malays mingled with the Proto-Malays, who were already inhabiting the land, as well as with the Siamese people, Javanese people, Sumatrans, Indian ethnic Thai people, Arab and Chinese merchants, resulting in the formation of the modern Malays of the Malay Peninsula. Although this theory has not found a scientific basis, it is generally accepted in the attitude of the Malays toward the indigenous tribes. Some of the Aboriginal Malay tribes, including the Orang Kanak and Orang Kuala, are difficult to be regarded as indigenous to the Malay Peninsula, as they only migrated in the last few centuries, much later than the Malays. Most Orang Kuala still live on the eastern coast of Sumatra in Indonesia, where they are also known as Duano people. According to the 2006 census, the number of Orang Asli was 141,230. Of these, 36.9% lived in remote villages, 62.4% on the outskirts of Malay villages, and 0.7% in cities and suburbs. Thus, the majority of the indigenous population are in rural areas. Some of them make regular trips between their native villages and the cities where they work. Orang Asli do not show much desire to permanently settle in cities, because of the high cost of living for them. In addition, they feel out of place in urban communities, due to differences in education, and socio-economic status as well as language and racial barriers.
Cuci mata je. For speaking is accepted, you just say sikat rambut. Rambut is hair. Saya takkan tipu. For formal Malay, saya tidak akan menipu.
Get yours now. Tina Amir's Learn Malay eBooks. Master Malay language in just a week.